This is Amplifying Autism, where every voice matters and every story shines. Join us as autistic authors, professionals, and trailblazers share their journeys, real stories, and real insight from those changing the world, one conversation at a time. Why is autism so misunderstood? Why is it so often missed or misdiagnosed in adults? And what does autism have to do with zebras? Well, Dr. Theodore E. Woodward wrote, "When you hear hoofbeats, think of horses, not zebras." He was telling his medical students that usually the correct diagnosis is the most common one, not the rarest. So, is late diagnosed adult autism a zebra diagnosis? Well, no, as it turns out. There are more people than you might expect who discover later in life that they've been autistic all along. If you have a unique autistic kind of brain, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. In the natural world, there are many different ways of looking at things, solving problems, communicating, and relating to sensory and social experiences. Being different is interesting and valuable. When you're in the minority, though, it can be hard. The majority makes up the unwritten rules we live by. For instance, the majority says, "I like to look at people's eyes when I talk to them. Therefore, everyone should look at my eyes when we talk. If you don't, I can't trust you." Many autistic folk are not comfortable with eye contact. They find it's easier to listen and understand someone if they look away or even close their eyes. How about you? When you look away from someone who's talking, are you better able to filter out visual distractions and focus on their spoken words? Or maybe it feels weird to look right at someone's eyeballs and gives you the ick. Avoiding eye contact is labeled a symptom of autism, but we might call it a personal preference. It happens to be in the minority in some cultures. In the past, autism was thought to occur in about 1 in 10,000 people. When I started teaching in the 1970s, autism was a zebra diagnosis. We were told it existed, but that we would probably never meet an autistic student in our entire teaching career. Well, that was wrong. They were there all along, but they weren't all recognized as autistic. The more we learned, the better we got at testing, and the more we recognized autistic students. As I record this, the numbers are closer to 1 in 31 instead of 1 in 10,000. Author Paula Hawkins wrote, in response to Dr. Woodward, "When you hear hooves, you look for horses, but you can't discount zebras." She's right. They're out there, camouflaged and invisible, desperate for a diagnosis to confirm who they really are. More and more adults are being diagnosed with autism every year. So how did they make it through school, all the way into adulthood, without being noticed? Camouflage. Zebras have their stripes, and undiagnosed autistic adults have their masks. They often create these masks when they start school. Many become little anthropologists on the playground, studying the children around them, who seem to play together naturally without any discernible rules. They learned to observe and imitate, mimicking their peers in hopes of blending in with the crowd and being accepted. They realized that other children didn't shake their arms or flap their hands when they were upset, and they didn't spin around or bounce up and down repetitively when they were happy. The young anthropologists try to change their own behavior, clasping their hands tightly together instead of flapping them, and jiggling a leg rather than bouncing up and down. For every action they took that resulted in rejection, they found a subtle substitute. They bit the insides of their cheeks, or they tapped their fingertips together, but down at their sides where it could escape notice. Does any of this sound familiar? Were you that young anthropologist studying the other kids to learn how to be like them? Well, maybe that's why you're listening to this podcast right now. If so, you've come to the right place. I'm guessing that you learned over time to stop acting like yourself and start masking, pretending to be the typical child that others expect you to be. You probably didn't realize you were masking. It started as a survival strategy and became a way of life. Did you just assume that everyone experienced the world as you did and felt intense pain every time the school bell rang? You may have thought you were weak and everyone else was so much stronger than you when you had to cover your ears. And they kept working in spite of the pain that you all must have felt. Well, you are not weak. How could you have known that the other kids didn't experience the bell as painfully loud, or the overhead lights as excruciatingly bright, or the smell of yesterday's popcorn as nauseating? If you're autistic, after years or decades of masking, you must be exhausted. You've been working twice as hard to appear normal, whatever that is. It takes a toll, mentally, physically, and emotionally. At some point, you can't take it anymore. You're tired of camouflaging. You're ready to find out why you feel so different from everyone else. Well, you deserve answers. Whether you seek a clinical diagnosis or you self-identify, embrace your neurodivergent self. You don't have to mold yourself into some version of who the world thinks you should be. You are not some weird black and white horse. You are a spectacular zebra. And you look amazing in stripes. You've been listening to Amplifying Autism, celebrating the voices that shape a more understanding world. Don't miss the next episode. More stories, more insight, and more voices that matter.